Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's in-depth ag forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We're going to start with some satellite imagery here, and this is where late last night, early this morning, the position of our second of three systems we've been monitoring was moving out of the southern plains here toward parts of the Midwest. Now, that first system did come through the Dakotas late last week and did produce severe storms in this area, but the storms that came from this powerful but small low-pressure system last night did produce several severe weather reports. Well, where's it going? Through the overnight hours into early this morning, it's curling up here through Illinois. And we do have a region in through here where we're on the lookout today due to the strong synoptic scale shear around this low. We have an area that we're watching for tornado threat today. And there's already been reports of tornadoes in Illinois from this system. But the biggest of the three systems we've been forecasting is right now coming through the mountains. And this large open wave will eject through Wyoming into the Dakotas over the next couple of days here and produce a pretty powerful cyclone as it does so. So before we get to that, let's just go back and look at the last 3 days worth of total accumulated precipitation. A couple things to take note of. The system we were kind of calling for coming out of the Texas-Oklahoma area and then heading here toward Illinois did finally produce rain in this particular region. That was a drier area overall. Many forecasts have been predicting rainfall to come through Kansas City, and we can finally see that it got there. A couple other places to take note of here. Over North Carolina, some heavy rain. This was aided by some tropical moisture at the end of last week. We're not going to see much precipitation at all in this area in the coming days, maybe not until next weekend coming through here. So this is going to be a drier region. But the northern plains, this was one region we had been targeting for potentially getting rainfall well in excess of an inch. And the first round already doing that here. Several locations picking up a half of an inch to well over an inch and a half to 2 inches of total accumulation. And this is the region that's going to get hit again midweek this week as the storm system coming out of the mountains is going to go over that same area. Storm reports, I just want to show you last night. We did have 74 reports in total in through here, including 17 reports of tornadoes yesterday on Sunday evening, but also some pretty large hail. And just using some of our hail mapping technology here, we can see that it was right around the Red River Valley of the South, especially right in through here, just south of Norman, Oklahoma. And was out on Twitter just kind of looking at what some folks were putting out here about some of these hailstones. And you can see here just a few pictures and then a video of some of the damage from a tornado near Carnegie, Oklahoma. But as we kind of look up, some of the stones were getting pretty large here. This one, of course, about baseball size. And you can also see this one here compared to a spoon there. But again, this was, near Norman, just a large hailstone here. Now, like I said, today, as we were kind of tweeting out this morning at Nutrien Ag Solutions, we were watching this area for the risk of tornadic thunderstorms. And certainly have been seeing that. They've issued a tornado watch in that area. But before I go much into that, I've got to show you two other things. This morning, National Weather Service out of Pocatello here, okay, they were putting out pictures of snow-covered scene here from the Redfish Lake Visitor Center. And then also take a look at this. This was in Bozeman, Montana, and you can see several inches of snow had already come down here. So that system that's behind both of these is really punching hard, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. But this just happened just a little while ago here, Wrights, Illinois. It's directly north of St. Louis, and we did get some video footage here of tornado doing some damage here on this farm. And so this is where the action is right now. It's coming right through the middle part of Illinois. Okay. Our all hazards weather map. Let's just get an update, see if anything changed here. Just a new map that I'm creating. You can tell how big of a problem this system is in the west, where we have got winter weather advisories in this shade right in through the middle here. This is all winter storm warning. These are freeze warnings like you see in the Columbia Basin, frost along the I-5 corridor, red flag warnings, a lot of wind advisories down here to the south. This next system coming through is packing a punch, and we're going to get to that in just a few seconds. But first, we're still dealing with system number 2 of the 3 we've been watching. And this is the area we're going to keep an eye on for the rest of the day today as it moves through. As I mentioned, we do have late this afternoon an area that is still under our tornado watch. So we're going to keep an eye on that on Monday afternoon and evening. Okay. Now back to that system behind it. Okay. Here's the lead system we just talked about. Look at this one though. It's very, very strong winds late this afternoon, and you can see them coming through California into the desert southwest. And this system is really just starting to take shape here, and it's going to emerge in the plains as a very, very powerful low pressure system. And as you can tell, the North Pacific is lined up with systems, and that's going to be critical for the depth of the trough that's going to be developing once again off the west coast of the United States. I'm going to get to that in just a few seconds. But first, I want to keep on this theme of severe thunderstorms before we get into that snow. And just let you know that tomorrow on the 12th, there's a large area from Nebraska through Kansas getting into Oklahoma and Texas. This area right in through here, that as the low emerges and runs to the north and east, there will be a frontal boundary that will move through this area and initiate some pretty nasty storms in there. I'd like to show you what we've got from the high-res NAM today. Okay, so as we get through late this afternoon, so here's the low we've already been talking about and the severe storms coming through parts of Illinois. There's scattered storms all along the frontal boundary to the south. But as you can tell, if I just kind of rock back and forth over late this morning into afternoon, we've already had quite a bit of snow, parts of Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, and then back into the Great Basin. The low is still sitting here, though, by tomorrow morning. And getting through the mid-morning tomorrow, into tomorrow afternoon, and then eventually into tomorrow evening, that's when this emerges in the high plains. And you can now start to see where we're drawing in all that warm, moist, and unstable air, and we're going to shove it very violently into the upper atmosphere and cause a line of severe storms to break out in this area. This is a multi-hazard threat here, so expect the risk of hail, straight line wind, and tornadic thunderstorms in this region. But on the back side, you can see how much snow we're going to be talking about here as we go through Tuesday into Wednesday morning, into Wednesday midday, and then all the way into Wednesday afternoon. So that system is going to continue through the day on Wednesday, moving through the upper Midwest, adding a lot of rain on the eastern side and snow on the western side. And by the way, why that's occurring, do notice another front comes into the Pacific Northwest here, and as that one comes through in the day on Wednesday, spreading some more snow into parts of the Pacific Northwest and some scattered rain. All right, so where does this end up by Wednesday evening? Well, you can easily find the long frontal boundary that's stretched out ahead of this, but it's on the backside. We're expecting quite a bit of rainfall here and then snow behind that. So let's go look at that snowfall. Through Thursday, 7 a.m., European Model 12Z run has a large area in here using a 10-to-1 ratio in Wyoming and into Montana that could possibly be seeing more than a foot of snow out of this. It's the duration of the event and how well fed it is with respect to moisture. I wanted to then zoom in and take a look at what the National Digital Forecast Database was saying with this 21Z run this afternoon. And again, there's still a large area in through here that's expecting better than 10 to 12 inches with pushing up against the mountains here in Wyoming. Some places may be picking up to 20 inches of snowfall. So this is the area we're going to be watching most carefully for that snow coming into this area, causing a lot of problems, all right? From there, watch this pattern evolve. I'm going to show you the GFS ensemble first and then the European later. Here's what we're going to see. There's the system coming through Illinois today and the much deeper trough behind it. Now, as we go through the day on Tuesday, you see that lead wave eject. See it there? And as we discussed, the tilt is negative, which means this system is going to race to the north very quickly rather than plowing through the United States. There's a second wave that comes in behind that. Then there's more stacked up here in the North Pacific between Alaska and Russia. But this downstream ridge is the other factor I want you to keep your eye on. So from Wednesday into Thursday, now getting out toward Friday, this is the first wave that might possibly, traverse the whole of the U.S. It is not connected to brutally cold air, but it will be a shot of colder air coming in late this week through the weekend, right through the midsection of the country. Now, do you see one of the reasons why it's advancing? It's the tilt. You can see the line I drew here representing the trough axis. And you can see how it's leaning forward, kind of like a forward slash, meaning that the flow is coming around it like this and it's going to advance forward. And sure enough, by Saturday, it's over the Great Lakes. Getting into Sunday, it's pushed over here to Quebec and parts of New England. And behind it, a ridge rebuilds pretty quickly. But that is the first system we've seen in a while really just advance across much of North America. Now, we already noticed that behind it, the next trough is developing into early next week. And where is it going? Right back to where it was. So a ridge rebuilds here. And the ridge that's been between, Greenland and Hudson Bay is once again there. But you do notice that along the east coast, and that includes the southeast up to the Great Lakes and over to the northeast, that's the entirety of the eastern Corn Belt as well, is not going to go back over to really hot conditions. Where's the heat going to be? Right in the midsection of the United States by the time we get out there to day 10. And I'm just going to move this forward quickly. well, day 15, well, let's take you out there. Day 15, you see what the pattern is attempting to do here. It wants to continue to develop these troughs in the Gulf of Alaska with broader ridging per se across much of the rest of North America. And that's going to play out in the temperature and precipitation pattern I'm going to show you in a few moments. First, let's just go do our multi-model comparison. I know a lot of you like to see the models side by side. We're going to see the same issues we normally see, the more progressive ECMWF and the more progressive GFS and the slower ECMWF. So we've already seen through the day on Tuesday. We've talked about Wednesday through Wednesday evening. So here we are. Notice the GFS has the low over North Dakota. The European has it a little bit farther to the south. See that? From here, they begin to diverge. First system, the GFS continues to put more snow into this part of Saskatchewan. European is not showing that just yet, and this is through 7 a.m. on Thursday. Moving forward with this, European still has the front here on Thursday, GFS, about the same location, so we're going to see some more showers and storms on the south side of that. But as we get into Thursday night, and then into early Friday morning, look at the difference here. The GFS takes the next wave and pushes it much more quickly through parts of the Midwest, whereas the European is much slower with this same feature and farther to the south. Watch this. So from this Friday into Saturday, the GFS pulls that system far to the north, the European much slower into the south, going across the eastern Corn Belt. So already by the time we get to the end of this week, this is a 120-hour forecast, okay? We're already seeing some major split in the models. Well, let's go through the rest of the weekend. And at this point, the troughs are coming in, but there's a ridge rebuilding in the midsection of the country. So that ridge is going to have some warmth returning here, but the cold air is going to be behind this deeper cyclone. I'll show you that cold air in just a few moments. So getting into next Monday and Tuesday, both models attempt to produce a low that comes across the country here, all right? But you can see that, again, the GFS on the left is quicker with it. It's taking over toward the Hudson Bay, whereas the European by Tuesday, early Tuesday morning, still has it sitting over like Lake Winnipeg. All right, let's just keep going. Why not? From Tuesday out into Wednesday and Thursday. And you do notice something important here. After we get past these next couple of systems, harvest windows are going to open back up for the midsection of the country. We need to go in and look at those precip totals now and then look at them in week 2. So I'd like to do this with 3 different kind of sources. The first is the 12Z Today WPC forecast. So this is from the National Weather Service, all right? We want to compare this, which shows drier in the southeast, heaviest rains from Texas into the Midwest, and then of course what's going on here, a lot of this snow on the backside, Wyoming and Montana, but stretching into the northern plains. Well, this is what the European says, the 12Z. And the GFS has a little different look. Ready? Here's the GFS. So European and GFS. Now you know I like to compare them, so this is what we've got. You notice that the GFS took the second system farther to the north quicker, and the European stalled it out and took it across the eastern Corn Belt. That's why you see wetter conditions from the European here and wetter conditions from the GFS there. Remember, these colors are wetter GFS, these colors are wetter European. So that's one of the bigger differences in the model forecast. European's wetter for the northwest, but the GFS much more aggressive on the rainfall in Texas. So just a few differences to point out here. Now, to be honest, it doesn't matter which model we look at for the week 2. They both want to give you this pattern. And, with the deeper trough here, we push up a ridge here into, the Canadian prairie. But this at least is a signal, right here, that trough, of a bit of a pattern change. Now, what do we end up getting? Well, this tends to produce heavier precipitation along the coast, warm and drier conditions here, a lot of upper level convergence in this area, which means drier eastern 2/3 of the United States. And I just want to point something out. This pattern you see here with the deep troughs in the Gulf of Alaska and the ridging here, this is nothing like we saw last October. Last October saw the opposite of this, a big ridge in place here and a trough over the Hudson Bay, which is why it was so cold in the Midwest, the upper Midwest, the northern plains and Canadian prairie last year compared to this year. Well, remember, we come back to this pattern. This is what we got in terms of precip. We're wetter in California. We're wetter in parts of the Pacific Northwest. We're drier on this side of the mountains. And last year, this time, we were talking about big snows in Montana pushing up against the mountains. Not this year. And then you notice for the week 2 pattern, this area here continues to show up drier due to the upper level convergence. And it's not just the the European that says that. It's also the GFS. This is the forecast for week 2. Very, very good model agreement. Now, I'm not talking much about the tropics right now because nothing about the MJO or any current tropical system is favorable for development. So we're going to leave that off the table and get right over to discussion about the near-term temperatures. Now, we know that over the last last 15 days, we have seen much above average temperatures in the northern plains and Canadian prairie, with the cooler weather from Alaska into the northwest. Question is, does this persist? First, let's look at those high temperatures, and then we'll get into that discussion. So this is today, Monday's high temperatures, and we're going to take it from there into Tuesday, and then into Wednesday. Now, you see how cold that air is across the whole of the west, while the east is still warm under that ridge. But going from Wednesday into Thursday and Friday, that cold air is pushing to the east as the deep low that comes out here moves toward the north and east. It will bring that colder air in behind it. From Friday into Saturday, this is a cool Saturday for the midsection of the country, and it's not been cool here for a while. Same thing down into Texas. But as we noted, we do expect the ridge to rebuild in this region, hence the warmer than normal conditions going into Sunday the 17th. Now, thinking about frost, I made a new map for you today from the National Digital Forecast Database. Over the next 7 days, if you see gray on this map, those are regions in gray where we do expect to have surface temperatures below 32 degrees Fahrenheit at some point. So you can see parts of the high plains. You can see parts of the western Dakotas. And then, of course, much of the rest of the west is going to get that sub-freezing temperature with this highly amplified pattern. So that gives us our frost threat in the near term. But where are we going after that? Let's go take a look. This is now the day 5 through 10 time period. So remember, that's the point where the trough is still in place here. The ridge is rebuilding, but we still have the trough of cold air bringing in this particular region below normal temperatures. So we got some cooler weather coming into the Ohio Valley, all the way back to the lower Mississippi River Valley and into Texas. And that pattern, okay, big ridge here with the trough still kind of stranded here over the east, is going to keep that part of the east cool while the midsection of North America regains some warmer conditions. Now, we know that this pattern was not well forecast, especially by me, earlier in the month. I thought we would have broken this down by now. But what I predicated a lot of that forecast on was the MJO, well, let's just blow that up, not doing this, crashing back into null space. I thought it'd stay out here at higher amplitude, cutting across the Western Pacific, and then doing a reset from phase 8 to phase 1. It just didn't do that. It's just jumping right back over here to phase 1 and 2, heading back to the Indian Ocean. That's where it has been. That's why we're not seeing the pattern progress. At least it's one of the reasons why we're not seeing it. There are other reasons in there as well, and I want to show you those. The MJO signals are pretty weak at this point. We do see a couple of important things. The return back over here to the Indian Ocean, as well as a reflection of that over South America. And I'm going to cover that in my South American video here after I record this one. But overall, La Niña right now seems to be the most important thing to be discussing in the longer term, because we do continue to see a positive Southern Oscillation Index, which says those trade winds are still strong. Cooler water continues to merge and stretch all the way back here to Niña region 1-2, and that hugs the west coast of South America. But that cold water extends north, and we continue to get colder and colder here in the Gulf of Alaska. This is, at this point, a stronger La Niña than we had last year. And again, that was another thing that we didn't quite, I didn't think it would be this strong at this point. So let's review where this is going to take us. First, the near term. The new ECMWF weeklies are out. And what are they attempting to do? Persist. So there's troughing here, ridging in the midsection North America, but we've broken down the really big ridge that was here, and the models are now seeing a bit more of a normal flow pattern, more zonal, than just reinforcing a large ridge of high pressure here. So the net effect of this pattern is to give us this temperature pattern. And again, we're considering the time period of October 22nd through November 21st, that 30-day window. What it does is it tends to keep the west favoring more cooler days, We're going to see the northern plains into central Canada favoring more days with above normal temperatures rather than below. And then we do see now more normal temperatures for mid to late fall across parts of the eastern United States. On the temperature side of things, on the precipitation side of things, we get this, wetter conditions in the northwest, and that's been very well forecast by the longer range models. Why do we continue to see above normal precipitation here? Well, the models are letting some of these troughs cut through, and that's why we tend to see that. But there will be open harvest windows in this area. Okay, this is not the right signal to make it overly wet for a long time. So harvest will continue in this particular region. But from there, let's include our last piece of information using that updated La Niña and some new long-range model data. We knew this about what this upcoming December, January, February time period was going to look like, right? Active Ohio River Valley, active Colorado low storm track. What are the normal conditions in the Pacific Northwest? We were concerned about California and Texas and possibly the Gulf Coast for being dry. That's what the European model said. What I want to add to this now is some new data that came out from the National Multi-Model Ensemble at the end of last week. And here's what it shows. December, January, February, it's almost the exact same pattern. And what this is all kind of using as the primary forecast predictor, okay, is going to be this La Niña, which, as we talked about on Thursday, continues to show signs that it's going to get down there to an average of about 1 degree Celsius below normal, which would put this at a moderate strength La Niña. And that was under forecast by me and most weather forecasters and models going back over the last several months. So this is a bit of a twist in the longer term forecast. So just want to keep you up to speed on it, and I'll be analyzing it for the rest of the week and report back to you again on Thursday. Have a good one. Thanks.